What's up guys? Matt, Legacy 4x4. This time working on the rear of the Dodge. All I did was just cut the back of the frame off. The back of the frame just had a bunch of mounts for the old sheet metal dovetail and then some random other jargon that I left back there. What I was left with was this nice flat chop on the back of the frame. Gives me plenty of room to do some leaf spring hangers and put some mounts up there. So it should be nice and simple. So I am using this 2003 Super Duty rear end. Came with leaf spring perches on it, but the leaf spring perches that were on it aren't going to work. As you can see, that leaf spring perch is just way too far outboarded. With that mount being so far to the outside of the frame, I'm not going to be able to use or make any mounts that are going to really hold a full-size leaf spring. So we're going to have to inboard those. So as you can see, I already started tearing up a lot of stuff, getting things in place. We're going to have to do this video in chunks because I have a really busy week. I'm going to try and work on it at night. Through the nights. So as you can see, I've got some leaf springs sitting over there. I've got the axle roughly sitting in the back of the truck. I got the truck chop, so here's gonna be our starting point. I think what I want to do first is connect the rear of this frame to really even out and add some structure to the rear of the frame and keep it nice and sturdy, like, you know, a cross member bumper sort of thing. So I think I'm just gonna plate the back of the bumper and then we can go from there trying to get the suspension set up. So let's get to plating the back of the bumper. To plate this bumper, I'm going to use a nice piece of 1/4 inch plate. Just kind of plasma cut it to size. Not really a lot to it. So let's get to it. Alright, so we got that 1/4 inch rectangle welded in. We also named the red Dodge. You know, the new ones with the Hellcats are called TRXs, so go ahead and make this one called the T-Rex. Nice and fun. That's on there permanently, so I can't change it now. But yeah, it's getting late, so we're probably going to call it here today. Like I said, we're going to do this one in chunks, so next time we come at this, we're probably going to get that axle mounted. That's going to be the plan. I will see you guys tomorrow. Alright, so it's been a while. I'm going to catch you guys back up on where we're at with doing this back half and some things that you've missed since I haven't recorded a back half video in about a week and I've done some upgrades. Alright, so first thing first, we have a 4-link instead of a leaf spring suspension. So I went ahead and just opted to do a single triangulated 4-link because reasons why, there's no particular reason. I just felt like doing a 4-link for this and so we did it. So instead of leaf springs, we're doing a 4-link. But since it's a 4-link now, that means that we're gonna have to do some more radical chops to the frame because theoretically everything behind this point right here doesn't need to be here. So I'm gonna chop this whole back of the frame off, redo the roll cage in the back, retie everything together, and lose about 200 pounds in the back of the frame. So with it being 4-linked, that's how the stance looks. It's still about 122 inch wheelbase because the front got stretched with the front leaf springs, but that's how the rear's gonna look. It's stuck right behind the cab for some nice radical looking designs. Biggest thing though is that that whole back section of the frame is not needed, and I'm not gonna need it for any storage or anything, so that's gonna get chopped. I'm gonna chop it right behind those coilover towers and that truck bed crossmember that's factory. So right at that line right there is where it's gonna get chopped. Once it's chopped right there, I'm gonna redo all of the cage work, the design, implement the fuel cell, put some fuel in it, and then I can put the coilovers back on and measure for spring rates and whatnot. But until that point, we got to get rid of all this extra weight. That way we can set the proper spring rate for our coilovers so we can get a nice flexy suspension. And in case you haven't seen these Barnes coilover towers, they are freaking beef. These are 1/4 inch, all laser cut, all professionally bent, and they are outstanding. I love these Barnes coilover towers. They should operate absolutely perfectly. And before you get me on, like, you know, the single shear welds and everything, there is going to be a cross member going between those two, and then these are also going to be fish plated to the frame itself. So there'll be more. We'll get to that after we do the frame chop and we know what we're working with, but until then, those are just sitting in place just like that. I don't think there's really much more to say about catching you guys back up. That's just where we're at. So let's turn the plasma cutter on and get to chopping. So here we are, we got everything chopped up. Don't mind those coilovers. Those are in place for testing. You will see that, or you will have seen that in the 4-link video. Those are just there so I can order the proper springs for it. But we got everything chopped off, and then I went ahead and welded in those down pipes for the roll cage, so those are there already. Here's what we got to work with. There's a few more things we need to do. First thing we're gonna do is probably install the fuel cell in the very back, make a nice simple mounting for that, get the fuel cell in there, and then we gotta build a bumper around that cross member that kind of arches to make room for those upper triangulated arms. And we gotta add all the extras like the spare tire and the high lift and, you know, an axe and a shovel and stuff. That way there's some more weight back here. So there's not really much more to say about this. Let's go ahead and get that fuel cell in there. Alright, so it's been a few days. I've been waiting on a bunch of parts to get in the mail. I went ahead and mounted my high lift jack as well as my shovel and axe for my just in case circumstances. Those are just normal high lift jack mounts. I think those are for Jeep roll bars, but you know, you make them work on a roll cage. And I got rubber mounts for the shovel and axe. So the last two things I need to do for this back half, surprisingly, we're almost done. The last two things Surprisingly, we're almost done with this back half. There's only 2 more things left on my to-do list. The first thing left is making a rear bumper of sorts. So you need to have that arch right there in the middle for clearance on those upper links. And I don't think I need to add a massive bumper since the tires are going to stop everything from hitting due to the fact the frame ends before the axle even starts. So I don't think I need some massive bumper to really protect it from rocks. So what I think I'm gonna do is just use this 1/2-inch plate right here and add some support to the sides as well as those 2x4s just for looks. And then we'll see how it looks from there. But I think that's gonna be all I do. So we'll see how that turns out. It's not going to be much, but you'll see when it's done. Second thing we gotta do is plumb the fuel systems. As you can see, I have my fuel cell professionally strapped into the chassis. All that is 2 ratchet straps with a mount welded to the bottom right there with some 1x1 angle. It's super simple. And while we're down here, let's talk about the fuel system. So that is a 100 micron filter going into a fuel pump, which is then going to take an A line to a 300 micron filter. You can see it leaning down, which is then going to go to the hard lines going into the original lines for the truck. So this truck needs to run about 41 PSI-ish. So that regulator is going to be good for that, as well as that pump is going to be way overrated for what I need it to do. But at the end of the day, overrated plus a regulator is going to be a really good combo for always getting fuel. So when that's all buttoned up, I'll get under there and show you guys a nice clean picture of it. But for now, that's the talk through. So with all that being said, let's get to welding on that plate to those end caps, and then we can see how everything turns out. Alright, so I know this whole video has been a bunch of just big steps forward and me not showing a lot of the work. Okay, so we went ahead and welded those 1/2-inch stock plates onto the end of that 2x4 holding up the coilover tower as well as the frame. And Barnes was kind enough to include a nice 3/8 inch tow hook tie down strap that I just went ahead and welded to the top of the frame as well. So that's how those look. It is the exact same on both sides, as you can see over here. That piece of stock has a hole in it just because reasons, I guess. It's old metal, so that's just how it works. But that's how that turned out. That's the rear bumper of sorts. It doesn't need to be much more than that. Like I said, it doesn't need to be much more than that since the frame actually ends before that back axle starts, if you can see right there, which means there's no point for a bumper since it's never going to hit anything, or if it does hit something, I'm in a really bad spot. Okay, let's talk fuel. So we got the fuel cell professionally mounted down with some ratchet straps. We have 2 AN lines. Those are 8 AN lines for the return and input, as well as a breather with a rollover valve for the final connection on the top. We follow those lines down. I don't know if you can focus in there, but if you follow those lines down, we have a pre-pump filter, we have the pump, then we have the post-pump filter along the inner frame rail, as well as the fuel regulator that's going to regulate it to about 54 PSI. That all ties into the OEM lines. The fuel regulator connects to the original OEM hard lines for the fuel with a nice little flare at the end and some hose clamps, nothing special. So yeah, this truck is coming along nicely. I'm feeling really good about it. I'm really excited for its future, and I'm really excited to go tear it down and shake it down again, and hopefully not break anything on the first shakeout run. So, but yeah, that's it for this one, guys. You will probably see this video before the 4-link video, since I want to include having the correct spring rate in the 4-link video itself. So next time you will probably see the 4-link creation on this Dodge, and then the time after that you'll see the shakedown run, and hopefully we don't break everything on it. So really excited with how it's turning out though. I think it's going to be quite fun off-roading. I think it's going to be super capable. Until next time, guys, have a good day.